On today's show, a simple love story about Ole and Bess, one that sparked an outdoor motor industry. And the tale begins with a summer treat. Up next, Laura Shera tries some urban kayaking on the Mississippi River.
It was amazing.
A little history and a little paddling, all rolled into one. Our walk in the park this week is at a place known for its waterfalls, and that's just one part of its state park charm. And trout, and more trout, growing them, catching them, and cooking them. Trout Air does a little bit of everything. Those stories and more, next.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Raven and I welcome you to the show. Our first story is about, well, a bowl of ice cream, so to speak. We all know the name Evinrude, right? A lot of us have an Evinrude outboard on the back of our boats. But do you know how it all started? Well, the ice cream is a hint. A dish of ice cream, a perfect summertime treat. But better hurry, hurry before it melts. A Wisconsin fella, Ole Evinrude, that's him there, learned that lesson a long time ago. Turns out the melting ice cream changed Ole's life, in more ways than one. It was the summer of 1906 when Ole and his fiancée, Bess Emily Carey, took a rowboat out to an island on Wisconsin's Okauchee Lake. A shy Norwegian immigrant, Ole would do anything for Bess. So the story goes, on that summer Sunday, Bess had a request. "Ole, darling, would you row back to the resort and bring for me a bowl of ice cream? I'll wait here." Ole said he would, of course. It was only 2.5 miles to row to fetch the treat his lady so wanted.
In an effort to get it back to her, he did not count on this stiff wind and warm temperatures, and by the time he got back there, that ice cream was melted.
We don't know what Bess said about the melted mess, but as it turns out, Ole's slow boat with ice cream was just the beginning. Ole, a skilled machinist, decided soon thereafter to marry Bess and invent something to make a boat go faster.
Ole had developed engines for many things before 1906, so it was an easy one for him to say, you know, I think I can build an engine for a boat.
A year later, 1907, Ole's idea was for real. A one-cylinder outboard engine with 1.5 horsepower, faster than rowing for sure. 5 years later, the Evinrude company was booming, with 300 employees making two-stroke outboards.
I always like to point out that Bess Evinrude, Ole's wife, was at least 50% responsible for the success of the company. And nobody knew that she was a woman. She signed everything be Evinrude. I mean, she's running the business end of the company and couldn't legally vote. And she created all the advertising. So she had what I call the advertising genius and the business acumen behind the whole thing, and they were truly a successful business team.
Eventually, the name alone said it all, Evinrude. Today, the name Evinrude continues as a leader in outboard engines still being assembled in Wisconsin.
Kevin, a lot has changed since 1909. This is one of the first, right?
1909, the first hand crank started motor. So we've come a very long way.
And the Evinrude innovation never stops.
We looked into the inside of the operating of the engine and created the most efficient piston cylinder design in the industry, giving you the better performance while also providing 15% more fuel efficiency.
The latest Evinrude is the E-Tech G2 design. As for horsepower, today's Evinrude tops out at 300 horsepower. We can only wonder, what would Ole think today?
They did wonderful things together. The sad part for me is from the time they sold their first engine to the time they were both gone from this earth was only 25 years.
Bess passed away in 1933. Ole died the following year at age 57. Today, the company Ole started is owned by a Canadian firm, BRP Incorporated. Meanwhile, after all these years, the Evinrude love story keeps on a-going.
My father said, whenever you're trying to do a deal with somebody, don't tell them your last name because they think you have money.
Money? Perhaps. But for sure, the Evinrudes left us with another history lesson. Even ice cream can make you famous. Coming up, how about trying a sport above the falls? Find out about a city tour that's all about paddling in the outdoors.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers, Jesse Treble Safe Basements of Minnesota, Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, and by Connecticut.
Welcome back. You know, one of the fastest growing water sports in Minnesota is kayaking. A lot of folks think of kayaking as going up into the boundary waters, for example. But do you know you can tour Minneapolis in a kayak? Laura Shera has the story.
You don't have to find northern wilderness to discover the joy of kayaking. This unique sports shop offers an urban kayak adventure on the river we all know, the mighty Mississippi.
This is one of our two most frequent tours. It's our Minneapolis to Minnehaha tour. I'm ready.
Mom Denise and friend Jill join me for, well, a rather different kind of city tour.
It's a beautiful day. You're going to get to explore some really awesome parts of the mighty Mississippi.
The essentials today are water, sunscreen, and I'm going to say a smile, because what else is there to do besides smile and have a good time today?
You ready, Denise?
I am. Exciting. Feels amazing.
Our first stop, a place I didn't think little boats could go. The St. Anthony Falls Lock and Dam.
How cool is this?
And just like that, we were free to paddle through Minneapolis history.
We have entered the historic Mill District of Minneapolis. And to our left is the old Pillsbury A mill, and to our right, Gold Medal Flour.
As we rode the current, we passed the sights and sounds of the U of M And we saw signs of Mother Nature along the way.
There he goes.
And finally, we reached another landmark. Minnehaha Park.
Which is a really awesome park. We have this 50-foot falls behind me that's super cool to check out. But then it flows into this creek that ends up in the river, and that's a fun, very peaceful place to hang out at.
We also discovered a Minneapolis we had never seen before thanks to the river tour.
Just a great afternoon. Didn't know what to expect. You know, you think about urban kayaking, you think about the Mississippi, it's a little intimidating. But it was absolutely gorgeous. The view from the river is something you just don't get to see the city by.
And thanks to Old Man River, urban sites and urban kayaking really do go hand in hand.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Borderview Lodge.
It's time to take a walk in the park, right? Well, this time we're going up to Gooseberry Falls State Park, famous for its waterfall and so much more.
Here we have several sets of waterfalls all in the same place. People love to get right up and see the waterfalls and listen to that beautiful sound. To get here. There are accessible trails, and they're just plain beautiful. So how could you not want to come see the waterfalls? It's quite a romantic setting too, I've heard. I know there's a lot of weddings that take place here, and probably a lot of marriage proposals as well. Gooseberry Falls is right on the shore of Lake Superior. It's 13 miles northeast of Two Harbors. We're here at the beginning of the summer season. It's the end of June. Spring is just winding down and people are out getting a head start on the summer. You probably would not be surprised if I said that the waterfalls are the main feature, the focus of the park. So right behind me is the lower falls. And just above the lower falls is the middle falls. The middle falls stretches all the way across the river. Just above the middle falls are the upper falls. The fifth falls is the one that's out in the park, kind of in the wilderness. It's quieter, it's more peaceful, it's a beautiful hike up there. Gooseberry Falls State Park was designated as a state park in 1937. That was a couple years after the state had purchased some land right around the falls and down the river to the lakeshore. Just after it was purchased, the Civilian Conservation Corps and the National Park Service moved in to develop the area. CCC did a heck of a lot of work here in the park. And today when you're here, what you see around you is the work that they did. Like picnic tables, the entrance sign, there's a water tower, the chain link fence down on the picnic flow. All of that is CCC stone construction. They use local stone from Duluth and from up the shore. And you can see that almost everywhere that you go in this park. The waterfalls were formed through eons of time. 1 billion years ago, we had the continent crack apart and a lot of lava flowed out in this area. When the glaciers melted, water channeled across the landscape, and the water cut down into the lava and formed the Gooseberry River Gorge that you see behind me. Some of the rock layers are harder than the other layers, and as the water erodes the softer layers, then you start seeing the stair steps of the waterfalls being formed as well. The waterfalls have been here for thousands and thousands of years, and they will be here for thousands and thousands more years. So I know the park will stay popular. People that are here as children today will come back with their grandchildren years from now and show them just what they're seeing today. It's a beautiful place. Bringing people for the first time here and watching their reaction, watching their children climb on the rocks or step into the water, it's just a lot of fun.
In the mood for trout and trotters? This Minnesota venue has you covered for both.
Minnesota Bound, brought to you by Northland Tractor Boating Centers, Minnesota Rebath, Evinrude, the official outboard motor of Minnesota Bound, and by Totem Resorts.
Okay, a question for you. How do you combine trotters, which are racehorses, and trout, which is a great sport fish? Well, we found the answer. It's up at Running Aces, and well, you watch me catch a trout and not ride a trotter. It's fair to ask, what's fishing have to do with Running Aces Track and Casino? Is the answer so simple as trotters go with trout? In a way, yes. There's a little Twin Cities fishing history here where the horses run.
It's our 9th race season, and as you tell everybody, oh, Running Aces, you mean Trout Air? It was such a landmark that they had that we knew we had to bring it back.
You see, Running Aces, the racetrack, is located where Trout Air, a popular Twin Cities fishing destination, sat for more than 3 decades.
Trout Air, they were known for their fishing, their family-friendly fun. We thought, well, can we bring back the trout?
Turns out the Bring Back the Trout idea went over, well, swimmingly. The club's restaurant was renamed Trout Air Tavern, where, of course, you can order the trout you just caught.
The reception has been great, but anywhere I'm at and I have the Trout Air logo on my vehicle, they go, I remember that. My dad used to take me there. I can't wait for my kids to come.
It's a big one.
Yep.
The big thing is you can come out here, catch your fish, have a family experience for the fishing, then enjoy it for the racing.
But wait, hold your trotters. Who brings the trout to Running Aces? Who else? This fella, Jesse Priner, the trout man. One of the original Trout Air owners, Jesse has been raising trout for more than 40 years and still does.
I just grew up into it. It's pretty interesting, very interesting, and challenging, and rewarding. It's a good feeling to be able to grow a nice fish and have a nice product.
Yes, when Running Aces decided to add trout to trotters, they called on Jesse to supply the fish.
You have to look at them as often as you can, 2 or 3 or 10 times a day, the more the better, and be aware how they are behaving, if they're happy, if they're stressed, if they're hungry, if they're not hungry. So it's a big babysitting job.
In a series of ponds that Jesse built, upwards of 10,000 pounds of trout are raised here annually.
A year or 2 ago, the track wanted to build a trout pond and carry on the Trout Air tradition. My sisters and I were happy to have somebody think enough of it to want to do it. And so we said yes, and we helped them as best we could, and I think they put it together pretty nicely.
So now you know why the trotters on the track at Running Aces have been joined by trout swimming in the pond. You could say it's all about luck. Fast horse, hungry trout. For most of us, that's a winner. You know, only in Minnesota could you watch a horse race and go catch a trout, huh? Who figured? Well, that about does it for us. Remember, introduce a kid to the great outdoors. I'm Ron Shura, and always, the star of the show and my Uber driver is David.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.